Hello, my fellow fans of the small. I'm Laura Blair, and this is Tiny Worlds, Big Stories. Here we celebrate the artists who craft small-scale magic, miniature makers, diorama dreamers, and dollhouse designers, and uncover the stories and creativity that bring these tiny worlds to life. Whether you build tiny scenes or simply love them, welcome. There are artists you admire from a distance, and then there are people who invite you into the workshop and they hand you the tools. My guest today is one of those people. Paris Renfroe, founder of PRD Miniatures, creates modern miniature architecture and furniture that feels as intentional as full-scale design. I first experienced that up close during a private workshop with him, which I learned how to build miniatures the right way. No shortcuts, no flimsy tricks, just precision, patience, and a deep respect for craft. Paris has built an entire world around scale and space, sleek pod houses, custom interiors, and furniture that echoes high-end design. His pieces aren't cute. They're works of art in miniature, and when you spend time with them, you understand why. Today, we're digging into how Paris approaches design, why he chooses to work small, and what it means to build something tiny that still carries the weight of big meaning. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Paris Renfroe. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well.
You are the
Laura.
best first
How are you
guest
doing?
ever. You're the first guy I thought of. Okay.
It's nice to be
All right.
first.
Okay. Here's my first question for you. You ready? I know the answers to these, so this is just for our listeners here. You've always been a craftsman. And can you tell how that started, what first drew you to design and making, and how that evolved into miniatures? It's a good story.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I grew up in the 80s, and I think that was probably one of the last times that I think kids got to grow up and really be kids, right? Be creative. Because now with technology, it's not the same thing. So when I grew up, I was making stuff out of cardboard, paper, Elmer's glue. Just buying a model was not that easy back then. You could go down to the local hardware or the hobby store and they only had a certain selection. And then even watching things on TV, there's only so many channels unless you had cable. So really, it was just really about seeing what you could see in books or seeing what I lived in a small northern Minnesota town and a lot of logging trucks. So I used to make a lot of semi trucks, a lot of cardboard in the trailers. So that was just kind of the start of it. And then later in the 80s, I was at a friend's house one night and Miami Vice came on. And I remember the music, the fashion, the cars, the clothes, the houses. That was really what kind of was the catalyst to get me interested in design in itself. I wasn't making anything related to that show then, but as far as going as far back as I can to where did it really start? What kickstarted me into wanting to do my own designs? I'd have to say that was one of the key moments for me.
So as you got older and what did you study in school? I don't even know if I knew what you studied.
So obviously the inspiration for design and creating through high school, I did wood shop. Back then they only had drafting classes. There wasn't really much for architecture. So it was really drafting 1, drafting 2.
I love that we were born in the same year because we have all the same references, all the same.
Yeah. And some of the viewers are like, well, I got to look this up, find out what he's talking about. So, there were computers around. And CAD was a program that you could get, but you couldn't even touch CAD until second or third year in college. So in high school, really, other than auto mechanics and wood shop, and then, like I said, drafting. But the thing about drafting was all precision drawing. And that was something that I love to sketch, but I'm not a precision drawer. I really did not enjoy that part of it. And you had to do that. Your line qualities, everything had to be, you had to basically learn how to be an architect the way the old architects would learn. And that was to do, typical.
That's really interesting to me that you didn't like precision drawing because your stuff is so precise when you build.
But I can build in my head and with my hands faster than I can draw in precision, if that makes sense. Because when you're drawing, it's just about your lines, and you as a creator, you don't get to see what's really happening until it's completely finished. And the problem I had was then my instructors, rather than see a design, they saw, your line is off here. So they saw all the C's in the work. And I'm not a perfectionist to that level. And I didn't like my work being judged based on line qualities as opposed to the creativeness. So that's where finally, when I decided to go to school, I looked at the programs as far as architecture. They had landscape architecture, but then you got to do biology and all this math, to go along with it. The liberal arts part of it just to me was not fun. So I actually didn't even finish school. I think I did about maybe 2 semesters, maybe 3. as far as credit wise. And then I ended up just working in the trade. So I got into construction right away because, like I said, I want to build. So even if you came to me as a client and we sit down and do a couple sketches, I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing a drawing
Yeah.
for you. I'm going to go in the shop and start making you a model, which is how I got started
Okay,
in
and that's
miniatures.
I want
Because
you to
when
tell
I
that
was doing,
story. That's the
okay,
that's
the
the story
next
I was
question.
talking about. I
Okay.
love this one.
Okay. So I met my wife at the time we were dating. We were in Minneapolis, and her job transferred to San Francisco. And I remember that she was like, "Hey, well, we're early in our relationship, so this is kind of an impasse here. We either gonna, move forward or we're gonna go to." I said, "Hey, let's go. San Francisco's a great city." So we moved to San Francisco. We moved into a 3-level loft that had no closets. Very kind of the new wave down there was to create these really cool urban spaces, but they just weren't really functional for the end user.
Mhm.
And so while she was working and I was unpacking and I was, went to IKEA and did the IKEA thing, and that was a kind of a new treat, right? New thing, and got some wardrobes and put everything in. But I wanted to put my
Of
own
course.
stamp on it. I didn't want just something that was, so I did my thing with veneers and, really sexed everything up even before California
Sexy
closets
IKEA.
was really big. I was,
I love it.
you'd be surprised. I was one of the first, really good IKEA bashers.
We
So,
had no Pinterest back then, and
um,
you would have been a king.
no, well, Craigslist started
Uh,
just probably late 2001. That wasn't for pictures, but as far as me getting my
yeah.
clients. And so what I was doing is I kind of showed pictures of, and I think back then it was before Flickr, it was Shutterfly. So Shutterfly was really big as far as sharing pictures. And the idea was I would make some models and I would take the pictures just enough to fool your eye so that I could put those out there and then attract customers like, hey, I really like that cabinet you did, whatever. And to me, it's no different than an architect who builds a model and shows it to the client. The client doesn't say, ooh, you build models. It's like, oh, this is a really cool concept. Yes, I want to hire you to build mine. And then you understand that the architect has the ability to
Of
scale things up. So I was using models as the same purpose. I was like, it's fast track the design as far as the drawings, because that was my biggest pet peeve is, you do all this like hours and hours worth of a proposal. And then they're like, yeah, let me think about it. And is it the drawing? You have no idea. And it's like, you've got all the technical drawings. To me, it was just like, and that, like I said, this was before a CAD was
Mhm.
around, but it wasn't something that I was interested in. Okay, and now I'm going to try to take this over. By then I was already used to making, physical models. And then they weren't to the level of what they are now. Then they were like more the papers and the foams, but they still had a really good reputation. And then when I got a hold of veneers, you can use veneers in a lot of creative ways to simulate the
You did
solid wood.
trick some people. One in particular, the woman
Yeah,
who called
yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, yeah, no, it was the one guy. Yeah, well, it wasn't so much with the model. That was with a rendering. I did a rendering. I had a friend help me with the rendering. We did the rendering and I sent it to him based on the concept that he wanted. And he was so upset. He thought that I had already built the cabinet. And I was like, no, this is not a real cabinet. This is just now we have AI, can go a whole nother level on that. But this was in like 2000,
Were you
2002.
excited to tell him, yeah, no, this is in 12th one?
I was, but I was also ready to say, you know what, maybe I shouldn't work with this guy because if he's so quick to jump on the gun like that. Now, mind you, it's like part of it was a compliment. The other part was showing me how quick his temper was. So I was like, okay. And then that also, kind of cuts into it. The whole thing with full size design is that there's a lot of therapy going on when you're dealing with clients. And I think that was a part that I didn't enjoy as much. That and then dealing with a lot of subcontractors because California specifically is a lot of different laws. Everybody has laws, but
Oh,
California has a lot of extra laws when it comes to contracting and licensing. So I didn't have to have a license to do cabinetry finish work. So as long as I wasn't cutting into the structure, basically cosmetology, I guess, if you will. And then I would hire contractors to come in if it was anything deeper than that, like going into a wall or whatever. So I did a lot of artwork and entertainment units and case goods and custom shelving, things like that. That's kind of how it started.
when did you cross over completely? Like, when did you say, okay, this miniature thing, I'm
Okay,
going to do this?
so then the wife got transferred back to Minneapolis, which we
Uh,
weren't happy about. It's like back to the cold. So I didn't open. I joined a small art gallery down in Lower Town, St. Paul. It was called AZ Gallery. And at the time, it was still a co-op gallery at the time, but they didn't really have a lot of stuff as far as it was run by
mhm.
artists. And not all artists are business people.
I
It
didn't know
was not being,
that.
was not,
Oh,
it was
my.
not being it wasn't.
To deal with the art part, the business part, I mean, yes, for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a good balance. And I'm lucky to have a partner who's really good in the business side. So yeah, we have a really good balance. So I got involved with the gallery. I helped create a front end and have a little more organization to it. Um, and I was doing my full size pieces. So I was doing like, again, casework, cool custom cabinetry and things like that. And then, so once a year, the way we had it set up is you could do a major show, and your major show was like 1 month. So like my first show was in July. And I remember there was another lady that was there that had some really cool paintings that I thought would complement my work. And then something happened with her and she wasn't able to do it. So I asked my wife, because she had done some paintings in the past. So she did a couple really cool paintings. And so we had the gallery set up for the whole month. It was great. That was July. It was the first time I had like a show with all of my pieces in it. But I remember how much work, it was getting ready for the show, getting everything hung and the way it needed to be. And then the whole month, going in every day and, trying to wait and see if you had anybody that wanted to come in and see your work. And, I sold a few pieces, but it wasn't to the level of what you had hoped. And then after your show ends, and you have to pull everything out and then find a place. And I used to work with a lot of like realtors or stagers, so I could take my pieces to like a loft or something like that. And then even though same thing, well, if the house sells and then the person wants to buy it, then they'll buy it.
You
If
gotta
not,
go
then
pick
you
it
have to
up,
come and
yeah.
pick it up. So you're moving stuff around. So that became a whole nother part of the business. So to get back to the question, how did I transition completely? So 2008, when the economy completely crashed, my business really just kind of dried up. Everybody froze their money. They're like, oh, wait a second, we've got cabins and boats and snowmobiles and all these things to pay for. So they weren't coming after you for design or anything that was, that was not discretionary income that they were planning on using. So I went into the shop. My wife still had her business and they were still working. So that was fine. And I wasn't going to just go run down and try to get a job at a restaurant again. I had done
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
through
you knew what you
college,
like
right? I
to
was like,
do,
that's,
yeah.
that's enough. So I went into the shop. I started playing around with the pieces that I had and said, well, let me just have some fun and make some models. So I decided, instead of just making some models, I wanted to make a structure. I'm like, I'm making my own miniature house. And I had wanted to all the way back through, in the beginning of architecture school, building a foam model and, things like that. But this one, I wanted to be good. So I went ahead and I built my first one. I forget what I called it. I think I called it the
Please
pod
tell me you
house
still have
or
it.
something like that. I
Ah,
don't, but here's
okay.
the story with it. So as soon as I finished it, and I remember this because it was around Halloween, and my wife was still at work. She hadn't come home, but the neighbors were already doing the trick or treating. And I remember the doorbell rings, and I'm just doing the finishing touches on the house. And I open up the door, and it was a couple of my neighbors with their kids. And I say, "Hey, you guys got to come in
Oh,
and
it's
see
like
this." And they're like, "Trick or
catnip.
treat." And like I give them the candy, and so I'm showing them. They're kind of like, "Wow, what is this? This is really cool." Here's this big house. It did not have lighting in it at the time, but it was all modern. It had a pool,
Oh,
2 levels, the kitchen, everything was there, and it was just a really cool, heavy duty
yeah.
architectural model, but obviously done in a nice modern style. And back then,
Like,
nobody had really seen anything model.
I'd
They
never
had
seen
not
anything
seen
like that
any
until I
modern
found
at all.
you, actually. I mean, amazing.
So my wife got home from work and she's looking at it like, wow, that's really neat. She's like, so what are you going to do with this? Right. She's seeing like, okay, you built a house. I said, I don't know. I'll put it on eBay. I'll see if I can get. So I put it on eBay and within like 3 days, I already had like a $1,700 bid on it.
Oh,
So it ended up selling and it sold to a gentleman in Chicago whose wife was in
cool.
architecture school. So he got it for her for Christmas that year. So that was going to 2009, so spring of 2009. So we put it in the car, and I remember we hand delivered it. So we drove it there, and he wasn't there. His mother-in-law came over because I guess they were out of town that weekend. Plus, he didn't want his wife to see it. It was a gift, right? So I was able to set it up, and
Uh,
it was
oh, I
bittersweet.
know. It
I
must have
felt
been
bad kind of leaving
sad
it
leaving
behind.
it.
It
It's your
was because
masterpiece.
I put a lot into it. So that was my very first one. I do have pictures of it
If you're
online.
watching on YouTube right now, I'm going to put photos of the pod houses on here. They're really cool. That was one of the first things I ever
Yeah.
saw of yours
So
online. They're all over the place.
so that was
Yeah. And then it just went
yeah.
from there. You just started making stuff.
Yeah, well, so yeah, little by little. So the pod house was not a true container house. That was just what I had called it. But back then, so I was really interested in what they call cargo texture, which is basically architecture using shipping containers or cargo containers. And that was I've been interested in that since I was in San Francisco because there was several architects on the West Coast. There's a couple in Seattle, I think one in Oregon, and then there was some projects that they were working on in San Francisco that they were using the shipping containers. So I was fascinated by those. And I wanted to make my own. And so I looked online and I saw some that were, I think they're like 1/20th scale or something like that. Kind of a weird scale. They don't really go with anything. Like even die-cast cars, the ones I collect are like 1/18 scale. So it's a little off, so the scale isn't quite right. So that frustrated me for what I was working with, because I was working in 1 inch, one inch scale, so 1/12 scale. And I wanted to start designing my own shipping container concepts and then possibly at least sell them to some builders, the ideas, the concepts. And so I started making my own models. And to decipher mine from anybody else's, I just created the name M112, which stood for modern and
Super
1/12 scale.
cool.
So I just M112, it was simple. And then I put that on every one so that when I would take the pictures and then I would send them out there. So to this day, I mean, you can go even on Pinterest or Google and you search for M112 pods.
I
and
know
then
him.
the
That's why I
pictures
say
will
like
come up.
Santa and I know
So
him.
yeah,
They are everywhere.
so
They're great.
that was fun. That was fun for me just because it was a way for me to create concepts and still make a little bit of money at the same time. But here's the thing though, is I never did them to enter into the miniature market.
I just think that's a really
That
common
was
story,
happenstance.
Paris. I think all these people do it because they love it. And then it just like catches fire because people love this stuff, especially when it's different.
So
Like your stuff is so different, the modern entity of it, and like the craftsmanship and your mid-century modern stuff. Like it stands apart, and it is art to me. Well, I'm going to ask you this. So what materials, like what do you mostly prefer to work with in the shop?
well, like I said, when I first started, it was a lot of foams and papers, and then I graduated to some veneers, and then really it depends on the tools that you have. The tools, for instance, if I was to show you how to build something here in my shop and then send you home with a project, I want to make sure that you have the tools. Some materials can, like thin plastics, wood veneers, can all be cut with utility
Right.
knives, straight edges, things like that. But when you're talking about thicker substrates like plywoods or even acrylics, those need to be cut with a table saw and specialized
Do you have
blades.
any unusual materials that you use that were kind of like, what? Like you get it at Home Depot, or like you kind of think, how is that a miniature
No.
thing?
Yeah. So my favorite material that I currently work with, it's called Comp Bond, and it's is a company called, I think it's Alumet, and it's a layered. It has plastic core, like a PVC core, and then the outside, the top and the bottom. So it's sandwiched in between thin layers of aluminum.
Okay.
And they use this in sign building, so it's lightweight, but it's really good in the elements, and it doesn't warp. I mean, it can bend, obviously, if heat is applied to it and there's pressure
Yeah.
or something. But so you have to be careful with it to a degree. But I use it a lot in miniatures because it's lightweight, it's strong, and again, it doesn't warp. So in some cases, if I'm doing a structure that needs to look thin, which is important when you're dealing with scale, because if it's too chunky, it looks off. Tables, such like that, I can put a veneer over the top of this metal and plastic surface and get a nice, completely flat. Whereas I couldn't take a solid board and cut it that thin and expect down the road that it's not going to warp.
Yeah.
I've spoken to a lot of different collectors that have pieces from all over the world that were really well done at one point. The problem is when you're cutting wood that small or that thin, over time, humidity, dryness, all those things cause it to warp. And then you've got this beautiful piece that you paid a lot of money for, and now it's basically
interesting.
worthless.
You think like a craftsman of bigger stuff shrunken down, because that's what I think a furniture maker would say. It's like you got to make sure you use the right stuff so it lasts forever,
Well, that and just make sure that it also fits the budget, right? Because not everybody has a budget where like, yeah, just make whatever you want. And, it's a difference of if somebody wants a gold finish or a gold plate, or if they want it to be chrome plated or just a chrome finish, So there's different, for instance, like if we're 3D printing now, you can 3D print anything up and then you can have it plated in rhodium, but rhodium is very
Right.
expensive. So then the next best thing to do would be like a nickel plate. So there's a lot of different materials, different finishes that help. I wouldn't even just say sell it, because it's not like we're trying to trick you. We're trying to sell you something that you're going to enjoy, something that's going to hold up over time. And so I try to balance
There's a lot
that.
of
So I
looking
don't
at your
always,
pieces saying, is that a real room or is that a miniature room? I did that in the beginning when I was
yeah,
starting to follow you. And I think that's the true thing when you really can't tell. And then until you see the finger or the person, with their hand in there.
yeah.
I
Well,
love that.
So that's a good thing to kind of quick jump on is the most important things in those. It's no different than somebody that's shooting a movie, right? Everything is about the camera angles, the lighting, shadowing, all of those things matter. And so what I do is the same thing. My concept doesn't feel real enough if I notice anything in there. To a degree, because I don't go and put every little, the little keys and
Yeah.
I don't do like what the end user does. I try to stick more architectural where it's really about the lines and selling you the beauty. It's similar to like when you go into a retail store and you see the design they have. It's somewhat minimal. They want you to see the lines of everything, even when it comes to the clothes. But then when you get home, you can go and you can accessorize with all the other little
You've done
things. And
retail stores, correct? You've done miniature retail stores, I think. Did you do a Crate and Barrel?
yeah,
What was
I've
it? That
done,
was
yeah.
cool.
I did a Crate and Barrel, and then I think in one of the magazines this month, forget which one it is, one of the miniature magazines, Marlin, I forget what her screen name is on Instagram, but the Hallmark one that I did for her is on there for Christmas, and it's got all the little details in there. So I made the structure, all the
A
store
lot of it's lighting,
fixtures,
right?
the counter. So yeah, no, percent it's lighting. And that's a key thing that whether you're into modern miniatures or classic miniatures, I think a lot of people's biggest complaints or biggest intrigue is how to do
Uh,
lighting properly. So that in itself is a whole nother.
I'm still needing a tutorial, another one on that. So you've built all kinds of different houses. I mean, you had the house you shipped to Australia that was like kind of this, what would you describe that style? That was so amazing.
It's called Wabi-Sabi. So it's like perfectly imperfect. Whereas like Japanese Japandi style is really about perfection and Wabi-Sabi has a similar ethereal or earthy feel to it, but it's not it's meant to celebrate the imperfections of whether it's wood or stone or whatever
Yeah.
it is. It's as long as it's a natural item. And that
Oh,
was
yeah.
fun to do because it did take me outside, but it was relaxing. It was very
Did
therapeutic
you
to do
listen to
something where
meditation
it's like,
music while you were?
no, I didn't. Well, music is, meditation for me. So I got to have music on. It's funny. My first thinking today was, oh, I got to get my music on. No,
You
I'm
could
doing
have
a
had it in the
podcast. I got
background.
the
I know
music
all
on.
those
So
songs. Okay, so I want to talk about the house you did for the Great American Dollhouse in Danville because that was amazing.
oh, no, no. It's
Did I have that? Oh, good grief, I
Maysville
have
is
that
what you
wrong.
mean.
I'm sorry.
Maysville.
Okay,
That's
so
okay.
tell it's the New York, it's like a townhome, right? It was huge.
Yeah, so it was the Manhattan, I guess townhouse that you could call it, and it was for Kay Browning, and it's in at the museum, the Kentucky Museum in
Maysville.
Maysville,
Okay.
Kentucky, and I mean, she's lived there her whole life, but her thing was she had a collection, a dollhouse collection that got so big that she had to put it somewhere. They had one in town, so they partnered up with them. So it's only one level. Like there's I think a couple levels in there. Plus they have the basement for storage and everything. It's a very very highly professional place. It's really really cool. Not that I expected anything less, but what I'm saying is I was just so impressed by the
Sure.
professional level of everything that they did in there, the curating. Because I had to go see it for
Hmm.
myself when she first approached me to do this piece for her. So when I went there, I was actually a little intimidated because she's got the best of the best from
That's
all
why
over the
she
world.
asked you,
This brought
Paris.
me back, but
Oh,
it brought me back to that anxiety
yeah,
of being in
I
drafting
know.
class. So again, to where the perfection of it, are you going to nitpick this? And
Yeah.
because you got to see the artistic version of everything. And we had a conversation, and she wanted what she wanted, which was, her kids are grown and they both live in New York and she loves to visit them. And she's never going to leave Maysville. That was not the
Hmm.
plan. But she said, if I could, I would want, you know, a beautiful view of the
Mm.
city. She wanted to see World Trade One and I don't think the Chrysler Building. It's what's the other one?
Oh,
Help
Empire
me
State
out.
Building.
Empire State. That's what it is. But she wanted both of those in the same view. I'm like, I don't think they've built that building yet. It's like, well, that's the beauty of miniatures. We get to build it. So I built her this penthouse from a view that did not currently exist at the time. Was able to get a helicopter shot that was just low enough to sell you that you were still in a building. So that was really that was the hardest thing for me to find. So I found that image and, and it had to be the right, because some of them are like forced perspective and it
Sure.
doesn't work when you're putting that in the background. So then I also showed her a couple images from the Intercontinental Hotel in New York City, and she loved the design inside of it. And she said, if you can replicate, because it was just a corner view, right? It was from their
Right.
penthouse. She said, if you can replicate the rest of the place, she said, then we've got a
Wow.
deal.
How long did it
And so
take you?
that's
How long
how
did it take
that
you to
one
make it?
turned.
A while.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to
Okay,
ever
go
tell
on.
anybody
You
that
don't have to say.
because
You don't have
they're like, "What?" No. Honestly, it within a year.
Okay,
I
no,
got it
that's
done within a
yeah, no,
year.
that's actually pretty
So,
impressive because
I had a yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it's like 4 feet long, 2 feet
and
high,
again,
2
on
feet
if you're
deep.
watching YouTube, I'll put some pictures and I'll put it on the episode page too because you got to see this thing. It's like it's real. I see why she asked you because she knew you could do it.
And it made her book too. It's in her book that she's got out, so I gotta get a copy of it. So
I want to talk about the teaching part because I just learned so much and I didn't tell the on my first episode I didn't tell the full story, but I was a little bit of a stalker. Oh, miniature artist stalker. I just loved your stuff so much and I thought this is what I want to learn and this is who I want to learn it from. So you were so gracious in this workshop that we did and you were such a good teacher. Do you want to do more? Do you want to have people come to you? Do you want to teach it, miniature
oh,
shows? Like
yeah.
what's your plan for that? Because you're good at it.
Well, the miniature shows are a little tough just because usually if I'm there, I'm also doing a
Right.
table. I got to set stuff up. I also was one of the founders for the
Right.
IMOMA show here in Las Vegas. So I still help. I stepped back from doing any of the operational duties on it. But usually when the show comes up, I'm still helping set up and things like that. And doing teaching and trying to balance all of that, it's really
Hmm.
difficult. And I don't want to shortchange anybody. I don't want to shortchange the other people at IMOMA, anybody that's getting stuff done, nor do I want to do that with the students as well. So I feel like it's easier if I set up
Right.
retreats and then they can, like you stay at the house, like we've got a couple guest rooms, or if they want to stay at a hotel and then just come over during the day, or I can come pick them up, whatever, we can set that up. I want to custom cater it to people because I don't really like to, and that's the other thing with the shows. You set up a class, it has to be pre-approved and everybody comes in and does exactly that. I like to really find out what somebody wants to learn because there's so many different things to learn. And that in itself, it's like I said, it's a very therapeutic
It really
experience
is.
because you learn how to work with not just your hands, but how you can maybe work on the fly because not everything, especially when we're in my shop, there's so many different things that we can
Yeah.
choose from and pick from.
That was what was amazing to
Whereas
me,
if
the
I'm
different ways you can go
yeah,
about making things and all the materials and all that, like writing all that down and being
yeah.
able to come home and say, what do
Well,
I want to
especially
use on my own dollhouse?
and showing people that it can be done in a short period of time. Some craftsmen are really afraid to show people the skills because they feel like, well, if I show you this and you see how fast I did it. Here's the thing though, it took me like 15 years to learn the skills to get it that fast. It's no different than a plumber, an electrician, or somebody comes in and does drywall. The person you typically, when you're paying for, you're like, wait a second, you were only here
You're
for
paying
so
for the
much time and it's
experience
this
and
much.
yeah,
You're paying for the
yeah,
experience and the fact that it's going to be done right,
of
and you won't
course.
have to come back
Yeah.
and do it again.
And we covered so
So
much ground. You just did a workshop with a couple people where it was kind of a cool idea. And was it
yeah.
dentists? Do I have it right? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. So talk
yes,
about that.
yes,
That was cool.
they're okay, so we just did a retreat in Cambria, California. My friend Corey, he's got a beautiful place. If you're a miniaturist and you want a nice therapeutic retreat, he's in Cambria, which is near uh, San Luis Obispo. So that's if you from anywhere outside the state, you would fly into San Luis Obispo, or if you're within a state, they came down from San Francisco, so you're able to drive down. So both of them work in the dentist industry. So they teach at like a dentist college. One is retired, the other one is still practicing. And their idea for miniatures, and I met them at the IMOMA show 2 years ago. Their thought process is we want to show our students how they can think outside the box a little
So
bit.
to speak.
You can create well,
Yeah.
yeah, right. It's outside the
In
box,
my
but it's
box.
inside the
Yeah.
box, right? Because it's creating like a smaller room box where you can look at the ergonomics of different
Yeah.
equipment, the design of it, because design is really a big
Hmm.
deal. It's part of she had mentioned something about dentists don't like to put anything in their dentist office that show people about what's really
Oh,
happening there, just because people have so much anxiety with it. So you really need to have an environment that's got good ambient lighting and just really good design overall. So when people come in, whether it's the waiting room, whether it's I think that she said the operative room, forget what she called it. So what we created was we did a room box, and I'll show you those pictures
Okay,
as
I'll
well.
share
Did I
those.
send
I think
you?
you
I
did.
think
Yeah,
I
I'll
did.
share them.
Yeah, you can share 'em. So they wanted to create a room box, and so we made it big enough to have the reception side and then the operative side. It's not an operation room, but anyways, it's a specific term that's used. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it has the two sides, and then it's so it has like the waiting area, the front desk, and we did a little like a backlit wall. So there's a couple different materials there. I showed them how to make like a shiny terrazzo floor by using thin acrylic sheets and then back painting it. And then we ran the electrical, so we had
Hmm.
the lighting in there. So they learned how to do that as well. And then they're going to add some things as they go along. I was kind of pressed for time because we didn't have a lot of time as far as this setup for me to do it ahead of time. But they really wanted a dentist chair.
Yeah, well, geez,
And
how would
so
you do that? How would you, is
well,
that
there's
custom?
a lot of different companies that
Hmm.
make them. So what I did was I just had a friend find a 3D file and he 3D printed me the parts. What I did is I disassembled the parts because I only want like maybe the base, some things that are just would take a lot longer to make from
Hmm.
scratch. So I'll take those and let's say it has like the spine is metal and it's aluminum or something like that to hold like the body piece and then the headrest. So then I actually will make that out of real aluminum. And a lot of these parts, when you 3D print them, are
Yeah,
hollow. So you can actually drill into them and you can insert different pieces. So you can customize it and really make it look like a much
right.
better piece. And that's what we did. So we were able to do that and get most of those done in class. And then they
I'm
got to
just
pick like
amazed
which leather
that
they wanted to
for the
upholster the
miniature thing, like you
seats.
could do something like that. That's so specific and so cool to build a room. I
It
mean,
is.
that's
I
amazing
mean,
to me. That's
yeah,
very cool.
but yeah, and then that's where 3D printing is really nice because you can get all the different little parts. Obviously, you still have to do finish work on those to really
Mm,
sell it to look as realistic, but at least it gives you something to go by. And in some cases, it's nice to 3D print something just as a model so that you can look at the parts that you have and see which scales
yeah,
match. You say, oh, like this, I can use this pop rivet, or I can use this piece of metal, or I can use this for this. So you're really just eyeballing something and saying, all right, let me match these up. And so that in itself becomes a fun little game.
yeah. Well, and the
All the
cool thing
while
about 3D
you're able to
printing with
build it.
you is that you don't just have it printed, take it, and put it in your house. Like you do all kinds of stuff. I mean, the upholstery and the
Yeah, I
parts.
think
I
you
mean, you
have
do to
to.
make it to
Yeah.
be a craftsman with it
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
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 So I just wanted to know, like, how has the vision for PRD Miniatures changed, like, over the last few years? I know 2008, that's kind of where it started, but how has it changed, and where do you want to go with it?
Well, originally I saw myself, even when I was doing full size design, is that I wanted to be a really well-known designer, have my pieces all over the world. I figured San Francisco was a great place to start, right? When I did start, figuring you've got a lot of people there. I had a client who moved from there down to LA. So did a couple projects there. Then from there was another client that had moved to New York. So I did a couple, project in New York. And I felt like, hey, you know what? I'm on my way. But they were kind of few and far between, and it wasn't to the level of, "Hey, I've got my own furniture line out there and everything's going well." You start to realize there's a lot of expense that goes to it, and you have to have a lot of other people on the back end. You're like, that's to me, it's just not
Yeah,
feasible. So, hey, hats go off to anybody out there who's ever been able to do that, but it's very expensive, it's very grueling. So I felt like with the miniature business, that was my way of kind of a happy
yeah,
medium. So I have clients all over the world. I have my own furniture lines, which I can create at any point, right? I don't have a whole staff of people where everybody's waiting on me to create, which that would be great, but another
right.
expense. So I get to work from home. I've got a home shop right in my
So
garage.
over your shoulder
And
there, I want you to show us
yeah, yeah, yeah.
your
So
latest masterpiece.
this is
It's incredible.
so this one is yeah, this is called the Lux Home, and it's designed for he's a collector client who also works with other collectors in the
In
Middle
the Middle
East.
East.
He's based out of Dubai,
Awesome.
and we've done several projects together so far. This is the most recent one. So it's basically a really high-end man cave, and it's got the quick.
I know the listeners want to see. It's incredible. Wow.
It's got a home office on the one end, and the other end I'm not quite done with the kitchen, but it's got the kitchen, it's got video, living room
Wow.
in the middle. The garage door in the back slides aside. What you don't see in the middle, there's like a middle plate that's in the floor. He's having a custom cherry tree handmade in Korea, and that's going to be a centerpiece in there. There's two big doors that open up on the front. There's skylights in the top. There's a Raspberry Pi computer unit on the top that stores all the digital
Do you
video
feel with these
that you need
super
for the
high-end
TV.
clients that they just trust you? I mean, they give you the basics, but then they let you do your thing.
Well, I'm similar to an architect in that respect, where you come to me based on my past experience and so it's not, you don't go to an architect and say, hey, I want you to build this design that I just came up with. You would go to a builder for that. You go to an architect because there's something about their style that you've seen that you're like, that
That's
fits
why
me.
Kay came to you. Yeah,
So when they come to me, I essentially get carte blanche.
that's so cool.
That's really how I work with a lot of clients. They trust the fact that the vision in the end is going to come out to be as good, if not better than what they expected, because if they could think of that or create that, then they would do it
Right.
themselves. So in this respect, yes, he wanted the man cave. He showed me a couple pictures where there shows like a car in a living room, that kind of thing, kind of a color palette. And really the rest was really up to me. From there, it's just using my expertise to know balance wise for a diorama, like how big it should be. Like this one is, I think it's 50 inches long, so just over 4 feet.
So you are super
by
stickler about
16
scale, and
inches
that's what
deep.
makes it so magical, I think. You
Well,
can
that's what
just
makes
tell
it
right away
real.
when
For
something's off. I know you can do that, and that's good. Well, you make most of your stuff
So
anyway, but
yeah. But this diorama would, if it was, let's say 1/12 scale, it would be even
huge.
bigger
That'd be
than
hard to
that.
ship.
So that's another thing. So sometimes back to the whole scale question too, is if somebody asks me, well, they want to build something, I'm like, well, what scale do you want it in? I'm like, I don't know what scale. It's okay. How much room do you have to show it then? Give me an idea where it's going to be displayed. Because once I know that, then I'll know what scale should be practical for it. And then I can scale it down.
What's something about being a miniature maker, especially with the craftsman part of it, that people outside our community, they just don't understand?
That's kind of a tricky one for me, just because I have to think of somebody who's outside of it, because I'm always inside my own head. I guess, like for me, I think a lot of the people outside, when they see what I'm doing, or if let's say I'm at a party one time, oh, so what do you do for a living? It's like, I don't say I make miniatures. I say I'm a designer, because I am. But true to heart, I'm a designer. I'm an artist. So then when they say, well, what do you make? Then I show them, but I don't tell them that they're miniatures, because they just see the beautiful work. So in their minds, they see it as full size until, like you said, there's a hand or something in there to tell them something different.
Fun surprise.
It is a fun surprise. Although sometimes I see the disappointment that they're like, you make models. You make, so then you hear someone say, yeah, he makes these really cute little dollhouse things. So when you get, it's like, wow, really? Like,
Well, what's so crazy is this community's big, though. Like, I love that. It's growing and people get it. And there are a whole bunch of us who just think it's amazing. So the person at the party who talks about dollhouses, whatever.
But that's where you got the weird stigma, because the thing is, some people can't see past the dollhouse side of it. But if we talk about it from a perspective of architecture and design and scale, all of those things, now that makes sense to those people. So a lot of the people that I connect with the best are architects, designers, interior designers, furniture makers, because they get it. They see the vision, but they're also impressed because it's small, right?
Working with small things is hard.
And we spend so much time on our phones now that everything, like when you're looking at Instagram and Amazon and you're shopping, you're buying all this little stuff. It just happens to get big when it shows up at your house. Unless you do a search and you buy it from me and then you didn't read the fine print. Then you're expecting it to be big.
Have you ever had that happen?
And this has happened. I have happened. I kid you not. We have to put these disclaimers all over the website. So when you go to check out, it actually will tell you have to check this box to let you know that you are actually purchasing something. These are not
your
full
website's
size.
New. So you had kind of a redo. It's awesome. So if people want to buy your stuff, they can go on PRD Miniatures and see what you've got.
And if you can't see something you want, then you send me a message and say, hey, you know what? I have this idea.
Yep. Your favorite words. I have this idea.
I'm a miniature artist, miniature architect.
I love it. And your stuff, your driftwood pieces and all the kind of, you do these little adventures into these different avenues. And I love seeing your collections, because I know you've been working on it for a while and you've got this idea. And you show a lot of that show. So you go to the San Diego show, IMOMA. Have you ever been to Chicago?
Chicago, actually, that used to be one of our best shows. The problem was we'd have to do a whole week, right?
Yeah, it's a long one.
If you're doing a class, classes start at like Monday, Tuesday of the week, and you're going all through the week. Then the show is on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Amazing show.
It is. It's very overwhelming because there's so much to see, and you're just it's just constant. Like, it's a beauty because it's almost like a hotel, buyout,
Yeah.
because everybody in the hotel is
I
pretty
love
much there for
following
the
it for
miniatures.
other people.
So, but it was exhausting. And when we started, so our first year I think was 2013 or 20 in Chicago. Yeah, yeah, we did Chicago International, like, I think 3 years in a row. The problem was that was right around the time that we had our daughter, and so she was a baby at the time. So, I'd bring my wife, I'd bring my daughter, then I'd have to fly my mom in so she could be the nanny during the day. So, the expenses were there, the amount of extra work was there, and it was just like, I need to take a break from
Yeah.
this. And I just haven't. I think so our last year there was like 2015. So we try to do the ones
Well,
closer
I'm
that
almost
I
right in
can.
your backyard. I mean, you helped make it, so that's fantastic.
Specifically, that's why it works for me, because I can bring everything over and then bring it right back. And then San Diego's not that far either. That's like, four and a half
Yeah.
hours
It's a
for us.
great
So,
show. So if you're especially into modern miniatures, you got to go. You got to go to the iMomo show. It's a good one. Okay, you ready for the bonus lightning round?
all right, bonus. What do we got? Bonus.
If you could make a miniature scale model of any building in the world, real or imaginary, we'll go down that road. What would it be and why?
What would it
Yeah.
be? Well, it is real in my mind. Here in Las Vegas, everything is anything you can access is here. I want to do a really cool, like, it's not a gentleman's. The name I want to use is the Kingsman, because here in Vegas we've got the
You're going to say
Knights.
Gentlemen's Club, and I'm like, I know
Everything's kind
that's
of.
not what you.
No, but no. But think of like a
Yeah.
speakeasy kind of vintage vibe.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain just because it's still in my head. But I want it for sports teams to purchase units for their rookies, because here's the problem in that industry is a lot of those rookies come out, they have rookie contracts, they don't have a lot of money, but they've got all their friends and family. Everybody wants them to, they want to be the entourage. So a lot of them go broke before they ever make any money. But I want to create something that has everything in there. So they've got a custom tailor in there. They've got a showroom of cars, so they can go in. They want to go out for the night, and it's like they go down to the tailor and say, "Here's my size, my dimensions." Guy gets in the suit what he needs, the shoes, the fancy watch, all that stuff. He goes down to the valet. They roll up whatever car that he signed up for on the app. He gets that car. He gets to go out for the evening, come back. Everything gets put away, and he's still living like, just a normal guy, a normal kid. And I just think that in itself. So I have this concept that I want to
Yeah.
build, whether it's were you asking, do I want to build
Either
it like in
one.
full scale?
I'd say build it in miniature and make.
I would build just sections of it so you could see. So similar to this, so you get the idea. And then I could use the investors love stuff like that anyway, too. So, and then you have those on display once you get it built up. So that's kind of my dream that ties in everything that I'm about as far as design and what I want to do, and being at the age that which I'm not going to say. We
We know
both
how
know.
old we
Hey,
are.
you know
Yeah.
what? 80s? We know
50
how old we
something.
are. But the idea is that I think you had asked earlier too, is what do you see the business changing? I'm doing a lot more commissions. Obviously, we just redid the website so that people can still order from us. But I really thrive off of the commissions because they're so encompassing, right? It's not just about, oh, he made me a table or he made me this, because you're going to take that table and put it into a room that you already have created, which is fine. I'm more like an architect, or I like to create the whole world, and then you get to live within it. So it'd be like if it was full size, I'm a custom home builder. I design it, have everything done that way, and then you buy it turnkey. But you get to still move things around and still get to, it's interactive art.
I think it's like, it's art.
So
I mean, it's art. It
is art.
Completely.
100% it's art.
Okay. So what's your favorite tool for working on miniatures? Like you could not live without it. Use it all the time.
Outside of the X-Acto knife, probably my table saw, just
Yeah.
because I couldn't cut down the materials that I need and do all the little tricks that I do without having my table saw. So, and it's not one of the little miniature ones. I actually don't have any miniatures tools. Yeah. So no, it's a
That's the
big shop
dream.
for building big
Tiny
stuff too.
worlds
So,
and big tools. Yes.
so yeah, my table saw is probably my favorite one.
And my last question is, what did little Paris love when he was a kid that grown-up Paris finally gets to honor through making this work?
Just being able to build or create the things that are in my head. because when I was little, I had ideas of whether it was making a really cool car or, like I said, watching Miami Vice and seeing those things. Making with papers and foams and Elmer's glue, it's like that wasn't even close to what you saw or what you wanted. So being able to create a vision or create something tangible from a vision and be blown away every time. Like even this one behind me, it's like I knew what the concept was going to be, but the fun part for me is because I also get to see the end result. This is not like, oh, I've done this so many times, it's not exciting. This is why I do it, is to see that end result come to fruition. And then when the clients get it, that's, like you said, that's just the cherry on
Totally.
top for me.
I think
at that point.
little Paris would completely freak out looking at the future.
Little Paris is still in there.
All right. So
Yeah, he's the one that runs the show.
he does. Yeah. And then your beautiful wife, who you tell her hello for me. I guess the last step is I'll put it in the show notes. You've got your PRDminiatures.com. You have a great following on Instagram, which is also PRD Miniatures. Do you Facebook at all? Or is it just mostly Instagram? And
I do Facebook as well, and it's also PRD Miniatures.
so you can find all this stuff.
I think Facebook and Instagram, they kind of go hand in hand a lot of times from my posts.
Well, it's just been a pleasure. I can't tell you how much I appreciated learning from you, especially at a time.
I miss you. I wish I could give you a hug.
I miss you guys.
I can't believe it's been almost over a year. I know. You have to come back. Bring your husband next time.
It was a good turning point for me on the art part. Like I got to see how it really is, how it can be, And for all the miniaturists out there who are just starting, like he's a great person to be inspired by. So check out his stuff, and I wish you guys the best. I will see you soon, Mr. Paris. Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Laura.
Before you go, you can explore my artwork on Instagram and on my website, Laura Blair Art Studio. Links are in the show notes. And if you'd like to stay connected, I'd love for you to join my newsletter where I share new work, stories, and behind-the-scenes thoughts from the studio. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.